Morning guys, it's Saturday today. It is Easter weekend, so we've got a long weekend and I'm hoping I might have to go to work on Monday, I'm not sure yet, on the bank holiday, but I didn't have to work yesterday, and I'm hoping that I can use this long weekend to kind of catch up and get a little bit ahead and be where I'd like to be, because I've been a bit behind all year so far. It's a legacy of my injury that you guys all know about that put me out of action for a little while. I squandered yesterday. I didn't squander it. I did some really valuable stuff and enjoyed it, but I didn't get anything done at home yesterday because I was out foraging, and you've probably seen that video already. But it meant obviously I didn't get anything done at home. But my wife is now on Easter holiday from school and she's made a massive head start already. She's mowed all the lawns, which I'm incredibly grateful for. It's a job I usually do, but yeah, she's mowed all the lawns and it's just looking so much better, so much tidier out here. You know, all the grass that we don't utilise for animals for whatever reason. But I'm hoping that by the end of this weekend I can be at the point where I really want to be with my sowing and seedlings and all those other kinds of things, and maybe even knock off a couple of extra little jobs which are on my sort of not quite such a rush but to-do list. All my beans and peas are coming along great. All of our other seedlings are doing great. It'd be great. So an example of one of the, a few of the extra jobs, getting these posts in to protect these trees so that this paddock's ready for the goats to come back. We've still got the bedding and manure to pick up, to put on the compost pile. There's a little bit of urgent work in regards to fencing. We've got one fence post that's decided to give up on the pig wood, but it's quite an important one. It's right here so I can show you. This corner brace has gone, snapped, so I need to get that done this weekend, even if I don't get anything else done, but that shouldn't take more than a few minutes. So it's Saturday morning, I'm up and about quite early, so that's an advantage. One of the reasons for that is because my wife is one of the lucky ones that's getting her vaccine today, her COVID vaccine. She works in a school, so she jumps up the list a bit in terms of priority. The pigs are just about to be fed, so I'm going to feed them and then I'm going to load the bins up in the car, go off and collect my fruit and veg, pig food, and probably stop at the bakery on the way back, going in with my wife as she gets her vaccine, or dropping her off there while I go and get the pig bins because it's at the same place. All right, guys? Yeah, hungry, aren't you? So I'm going to feed these, load up the bins, and then I think that'll set me up quite nicely for the day. So I've done all my running around this morning, and I've also cooked dinner for tonight. And I'm coming out now to do some of my outside duties, and you'll have to forgive if there's a slight drop in quality in the audio on this one. I had a bit of a disaster yesterday. My phone blew over while it was on the tripod and my microphone broke. Basically the lightning adapter that I used to connect it to the camera snapped off it, so it's irreparable. But I've ordered another one, and with the wonders of Amazon, that will be here today, so should only be for this video. Anyway, I've come out to talk to you about fencing and chicken fencing, and in particular electric fencing. Just quickly go say hello to the goats. You're all looking well. Give you a bit of extra hay, shall I? Just going to drop them in a bit of extra hay. Yeah, so chicken fencing. Now, there's no such thing as being 100% fox-proof or predator-proof. Anyone who's kept chickens for a long time will know that, sooner or later, regardless of what you do almost, the chicken predators are going to find their way in. We haven't had any losses to predators for a good couple of years now, which is fantastic. I'm doing it. And I'm going to show you our chicken fencing and it's what's worked for us, what is working for us. So we'll start with that, and then I'm going to show you what we're doing next, which isn't to change our current system, not in a functional way, but in a maintenance way. We're going to I'm going to do something today which is going to reduce the amount of effort involved in maintaining our systems. Hello. You've got everything you need in there, Fern. So here behind me we have our Brahmas, my wife's hens. That one is destined for the freezer. Nope, that one running away there is destined for the freezer. It's a cockbird that's surplus to requirements. As you'll see, around the outside of the run here, we've got this electric fence, and it's about a metre high, and that has kept these birds safe from the fox. Now, it's not enough just to have the electric fence. You also need this space outside of it. If we're up against something, then the fox can use that to jump over, and there's no doubt in my mind, you know, the fox is going to know that there's chickens in here, but we've kept this system for, like I say, 2 years, and we haven't lost a bird. Our system for running the electric fence works off of this car battery. Now, this car, there's basically 3 elements out here. There's the car battery, there's what we call the fencer, the electric fencer, which is the bit that does the work, that converts the energy in the battery to the energy in the fence. And we've got a solar panel, and we have this set up at 3 different places around the property. One here and one with each of our trailers, because as you'll know, we've got trailers, big chicken trailers. One just there and another up in the food forest, and each of them have an electric fence around it with a car battery, solar charger or a solar panel, and a fencer. Now, these are quite unwieldy items to drag around with you, and not only that, we live in the UK, we don't get a tremendous amount of sun here for a lot of the year, so the batteries do periodically need recharging. They need bringing in the house and plugging into a car charger to be recharged. So what I'm going to do now is we're actually going to set up a system that runs off the mains from the house. The main reason for that is to just reduce the workload here. Now, my wife checks on all the batteries and the fences twice a day. That's the first bit of maintenance that they require, and the second bit is bringing the batteries in, swapping them over and taking a new one out, which she probably does 3 times a week. Obviously that will vary with the amount of sun we get for those solar panels, but however you slice it, it's quite a lot of work, and carrying the batteries isn't always fun, particularly because at the point at which you realise they need replacing, you've probably got a bucket full of eggs or something. And car batteries aren't light. We're going to set up a system that runs off the mains that we can use to power our electric fences, at least some of them. The only problem being, this is our house where we have mains electricity, and way over there and over there are all of our electric fences. Now, luckily, pretty much all the mains electric fencing systems that you can buy say that they'll work to power around 10 kilometers of fencing. That sounds like a great deal, but when you think about the poultry netting, those net fences that go round, they've actually got 8 or 10 strands of wire. So for every meter, they're running 8 or 10 meters of electrical wire. So that reduces that distance down considerably. Having said that, it's still plenty for our purposes. Now, I have bought this Hotline Super Eagle electric fencer. I'm not recommending it. I'm not saying it's amazing. I don't know anything about it. I've never used one before. But Hotline is a very well-known brand, at least here in the UK. It's the brand for electrical fencing stuff. There are other brands available. This is the one that you always see, and they're slightly more expensive than some of the others. So, not much more though. I can't remember what I paid for this, but it was over £100. and less than 200. But when you work that out in actual time saved, hours saved, within 6 months, it will easily have paid for itself. The other thing I had to buy were some reels of what's called lead out cable. But luckily, these are available at not very much money. They were, I think, 17 or 18 pounds for a 50-metre roll if you can get the non-branded stuff, which is what this is. Wasn't enough for me to finish, so I did have to buy some hotline stuff as well. But this wasn't all the money in the world. I think it was about 14 pounds for a 25-metre cable. So we've got 100 meters here, which isn't going to be enough to achieve everything we want, but it's going to get us a really good start. Now, in terms of cost, there's another cost that we haven't spoke about, and that is the cost of running it. Obviously, that's going to be an additional cost on top of what we're currently paying, or is it? When you factor into account what we're paying to actually charge the batteries, I think that there's not going to be a great deal of difference. Obviously, there'll be some difference, but it won't be much. But in terms of the labour saving element, I think it's going to more than pay for itself. So here's the machine, and I haven't got the first idea how to use it. So the first thing I'm going to do is spend as little time as possible giving the instructions a cursory glance, and I'll catch up with you after that. Okay, so the instructions were incredibly short, which is fantastic. And yeah, it's super simple. Basically, and I'll show you this when I do it, there's 2 terminals on it. One goes to the fence, one goes to the earth. The earth is just a spike that you put in the ground, and that's something that we have to do every time with every single one of those battery fence charges anyway. So it's actually going to reduce the number of earth that we need. So my wife's adamant that she doesn't want it on display, which is causing me a bit of a conundrum, really. It's a very, very old house, and there are precious few plug sockets. So we don't have many spare, and you know, it really limits where I can connect to. Also, it means that I'm having to try and house the unit out here, which is fine. You know, this has got a great space for it, but it means I've got to run first an extension lead from the house to here and then run from here, and I don't have an extension lead that's long enough that is you know, suitable, because it's got to be a one that's suitable for being used outside, like this one. So I've got this one, but it doesn't quite reach to the only available plug socket. So well, it kind of does and it doesn't. I'd have to run it diagonally across the gravel here, which means I'd have to dig up some of the gravel and put it in some trunking. It's no good, because it's electric, obviously, it's no good just burying it in the gravel like so, you know, and putting gravel over the top, because the gravel's going to chew through the side of the wire, leaving exposed electrical cables out here. Obviously, we don't want that. So yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I either need to buy a different cable, you know, a bigger cable to go in there. Again, reluctant to do that if I don't have to, or come up with some other way of housing it, but I don't really see a way around that. I don't want to start drilling holes in the walls. The plan is drill a small hole in the corner of the window frame there that I can connect onto a plug socket, and obviously make that good with silicone. It's something, if and when we move out, we can just take that away and fill the hole. Same as if I go here. We could do that obviously by drilling a hole through the wall, but it's so much more work to make that good later. But here, the window frame doesn't lend itself to that happening. So that's the bathroom. There's no plug sockets in there. The other option is our bedroom, and that doesn't bother me. But again, my wife said she doesn't want the wires going across the bedroom, so we can't do it there either. So I'm really quite flummoxed. We've got a plug socket that's not in use just inside that window, which would be perfect. But like I say, we've got this issue here with the distance. Very frustrating, but not unsurmountable. So what I can do though, before my wife comes home, is, because I'm basically waiting on my wife to come home to decide exactly what we're going to do here. She's gone to meet her parents. So what I can do is I can start running the lead out cable, these lead out cables, because I'm fairly confident that that's going to be where it's housed. So we can start running these out and getting them in place. So I have two 25-metre reels and a 50-metre reel. I've started with one of the 25-metre reels, and that's got me from here. You can see the cable there. It dives down onto the floor and runs under the gravel, but I put it under the gravel right next to the house. Doesn't take any foot traffic there, so I don't need to worry about the wire getting, you know, abrased, is that a word? By the abrasiveness of the gravel. So it runs all the way along the building there, and I've just come around that step and then tucked it in to this row of beech hedging, and I've actually weaved it in and out of a couple of the trees just to hold it in the centre so that we don't catch it with things like the ride-on mower when we're coming through. Now that's got me to here. So here I need to make a connection, and for now all I'm going to do is just join the two pieces of wire, or I might even just leave a little bit of overlap, I'm not sure, because what I want to do is put them in a junction box, which I don't have at the moment. In fact, I think it makes more sense, I'll just leave the other piece of wire here and make the connection later when I've got the junction box, because my plan is when my wife gets back I can come up with a definitive plan as to what I can and can't do, at which point I can then nip off and get any remaining bits that I need, because I'm desperate to get it done this weekend. It's a job that's been looming over me for a few weeks, so I want to get it done, and you know, this is the best weekend to do it because it's a long weekend. So yeah, so I'm going to leave a little bit of this, got this 50-metre reel to go next. I'll leave a little bit of that ready to attach via a junction box, and this one is going to get us to the first of the places where we actually want to have electric fencing. So quite exciting really. So here we are, back in poultry paradise. We've got our cable to the first place that we need it, which is here. We've got another 25 meters to play with. We can get more, and yeah, that's the first step done. And then from here we can run it down the back of the vegetable bed to gain access to the top section here. In case you're wondering, you saw me pop some in a little slit I cut in the turf, in the grass. Well, that's what it's designed for. It's designed to be used like that. It's designed to be used to go underneath gates and that kind of thing. So we can bring it along here, and from here, all you need to do is just remember where it is. You know, just have a think about the purpose of the ground. So if I were to, because what I'm thinking of doing is bringing it up here and then along the edge of the vegetable plot, but obviously you need to be careful if you're burying it somewhere you're going to be digging. I'm not saying I will do that, I'm saying it's an option, I'm not sure. Once I get it, I probably won't actually, I'll probably just come across this opening just like I did before in the grass, and then I can run it along the back of the compost bins there, and then across this grass here, get it to this fence. Once I've got it to this fence, it can be pegged along the top of the fence quite happily, and that's gonna, taking it in that run is going to give us all sorts of options. It means we're going to have connection points along that fence. It means we can have a connection point here, and it means if we choose to, if we put a connection point here, we can run that way with just the regular green electric fencing that we use sometimes. You know, the single strand green electric, we use that sometimes as extensions to, if we want to join one fence to another, for example. But if we do that, if we do what I've just said, that's going to give us a connection point in poultry paradise. It's going to give us another one just here. It's going to give us another one just there, and then another one over there. And then, like I say, from there we can do whatever we like. We can run all of our fences off it if we choose to, even if they're not in the vicinity, by, like I say, using that single strand electric green fencing to act as an extension lead, if you like. Let's go get this last drum and finish what we've started. suddenly got like 5 degrees hotter. Don't know where that's come from. We're expecting it to get quite a bit cooler in the next few days. This is as far as I get. This is the end of my run. So we've now got mains electric fencing from the house brought up all the way to here, and we can basically make connections anywhere on there. However, the only real places that's worthwhile making those connections currently are right at the end, at this end of the vegetable bed as well, so we can operate out here, and then in Poultry Paradise to run that fence. So we'll definitely need another length of lead out cable, and that will get us from where we are across that fence. That's going to draw a halt to proceedings for now until my wife comes home, but there's lots of other things for me to be getting on with. So we're expecting a light frost tonight. Now, believe it or not, all of our brassicas, our beetroot, our perpetual spinach, even our lettuce, they're actually going to be okay with a very light frost. It's not going to kill them, but it might set them back a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to just protect them with some, I don't know what yet. We could use all sorts of things. I'm probably going to use a load of dried leaves. I don't know if you noticed where I was laying that cable up the length of that path, there was a load of dried leaves there. So I might get my leaf blower out and collect all of those up, and they'll make really good frost protection mulch for this evening. Why would you use a leaf blower? Well, that's a question I always used to ask. Why would anyone use a leaf blower instead of a rake or whatever? Well, in this particular instance, our first year we used a rake to collect it all up. Collected up this amazing amount of leaves, and we thought we'd use it as mulch, and then planted potatoes in that same space. The following year, upon digging the potatoes up, it became clear to me that I'd moved probably at least as much weight of stones and gravel as I had leaves onto my vegetable bed. So that's why we use a leaf blower these days. But before I do anything else, I am going to go and make myself a quick coffee. Oh, my wife's home. That's a good development. Means I might be able to make some more progress with the electric. So I've just got back. I spoke to my wife, and basically, short version, she said just get on with it. So I've bought a slightly longer extension lead to connect up to the house, put it where I want it, and a few other bits and bobs that I'm going to need. I've also stopped at the bakery to pick up some bread, which I'm going to distribute in a bit, because right now it's time to cook dinner. Now, if you're interested in the fencing and how I'm doing that, I'm going to have a separate dedicated video showing in a bit more depth exactly what I'm doing and how it's going to be done, and you know, if you wanted to do the same, what's involved. But for now, I'm going to go in and cook everybody's tea, and tonight we are having a Mexican style pork and beans with tortilla wraps and potato wedges. It's a great way of using leftover meat, actually. If you wanted a tip, if you want a cooking tip, if you've got leftover meat, and as you'll have heard me say before, I grow for gluts here and we like to preserve. I also cook for gluts. So I cooked last weekend a giant piece of pork, and we all had it for a roast dinner. We've had it for sandwiches, and then the pieces that were left, I basically cut up really, really fine. And once you've done that, you can basically use any chili con carne recipe that you can find online. It's really simple chili. Just loads of cumin, coriander, onions, garlic, all that stuff. But instead of using minced beef, we use, the leftover pork chopped up really fine. Let me show you it. I made it a little bit earlier, and we'll heat it up now. But it's just a great way of using leftover meat. So that's what we're going to do now after dinner. Whether or not I'll get a chance to finish the fencing today, I doubt. So that will probably run into tomorrow. But I am going to go and cover up my seedlings. So I'll bring you with me for that. So that's all the humans fed. I'm going to pop to the car now and grab all of the bread out of the back and drop that round. Then we're going to cover up our seedlings. We're going to make a token effort of that because, as I said, the seedlings we've got out would actually be okay because, as I say, it's going to be a very light frost. We've got 2 or 3 of them coming, so I am going to cover them up nonetheless, because every little helps. Oh, also, I've had my microphone arrive. So we're up and running with another microphone again now, which I'm happy about. You don't have to carry more than you're comfortable carrying, love. I've got my daughter here to help me, who doesn't want to appear on camera, and that's fine. Can you hear the goats? Can you hear the kids? That's Fern's little baby. Calling for Jackie, who's been bottle feeding. So my daughter's going to go and check on Fern. I'm just going to throw some bread in for these guys. Some of the bigger kids are now starting to take an interest in solid food. A few of them have been nibbling on the grass, which is great to see, obviously. Got this piece that I'm going to give to Fern. We need to get Sid separated in the next week or so that we don't have any accidents. And I think what I might do actually is grab a pitchfork and collect up some of this discarded hay here. That might work to protect my seedlings. That might be the most holistic approach. Quick update on my brolly too. So if you remember, this is the umbrella that was a semi-permanent fixture over the milking stand there. Only it had all ripped to pieces in storms and over the years just got completely battered. Well, my amazing mother-in-law has stitched a piece on and made it good as new. This is from an old coat, so it's waterproof, and I am absolutely thrilled. For a heavy duty one like this, I don't know what I would have paid to replace it. So yeah, I'm over the moon. I can't tell you the difference it makes. Our first year of milking, I used to milk every day, whatever the weather, with no cover. The difference having a cover makes is incredible. I've already milked the girls today, very, very little, and I'm actually going to slow down, possibly down to 0, because they've each got twins, and the twins are starting to take more and more, and I just don't think Mum needs my assistance or any kind of involvement, so I'm actually going to back off, I think, for a few days now, because this is about as much as they'll be drinking. As we get round to weaning, then obviously we'll start again taking a little bit. Like I said before, it's more art than science, and it's just, you've got to know your own goats. I can't really show you on the camera, it's not easy to pick up, but basically their udders are always looking now about half full, which is perfect without my interference. You know, they don't need me to milk them out a little bit because they're too full. They don't need me to milk them out to encourage them to produce more milk because there's not enough there. There's just the right amount. So we'll let nature do its thing now for a few weeks until we're at a point when it's right for us to intervene again, because it's time for us to start taking it instead of the kids. So while I've got the cart with the hay on, I thought I'd bring it back to the car just to load up the rest of the bread. Saves me making multiple trips. Something I've been meaning to do for a little while now is just to say thank you, a big thank you to all of my subscribers, and particularly those of you who have been with me a little while. There are so many things I do I wouldn't be doing if it wasn't for you guys. Sometimes, you motivate me to get out and do the things on the days when perhaps I'm not feeling like doing it, when I'm feeling a little bit lethargic or in the mood to procrastinate. Having you guys out there who appreciate what I do and appreciate me putting it out there is a real motivator. So I genuinely appreciate that, guys, and I appreciate each and every one of you, genuinely. However, I want to just offer a special thanks to those of you who go the extra mile, who frequently comment. I just received some fantastic comments, some amazing positivity and encouragement from you guys, and it's no exaggeration to say it means the world to me. It just means everything to me to know that it's appreciated and that it's met with positivity. So thank you. I mean, particularly recently there's been a couple of really positive comments, and I just, like everybody, we all need that. Who doesn't need positive encouragement? So thank you so much. And in addition to that, I also want to give a really special thanks to those of you who have become patrons. My Patreon isn't something I push very hard, particularly not here on the YouTube channel. I'm coming. You've been fed today already. I'm just going to give them a bit extra bread. They know exactly what's going on, so I might as well get it over with. Yeah, so I don't really mention my Patreon very often here. I mention it more on the podcast. But those of you who have decided that what I'm doing, be it here or on the podcast or both, is worth whatever it is you've decided it's worth, a cup of coffee a month, or a takeaway meal a month. I just, I can't say enough how much I appreciate that. It makes all the difference in the world. And if you're interested, the links to my Patreon are in the description. It's patreon.com/self-sufficient-hub. But with reaching 1,000 subscribers, it just seemed apt that I take a moment in this video to say thank you. And I've mentioned the Patreon people, I've mentioned the people who comment, but if you're not one of those people, I appreciate you as well. Genuinely, I'm not just saying that. I'm very proud of what I'm doing here. I'm very proud of what I'm trying to build in terms of the channel, the homestead, the podcast, the community on Facebook, all of it. And if it wasn't for you guys, none of it works. None of it happens. There's nothing to be proud of. So thank you. I feel like we've been through quite a bit together now. You guys were tremendously supportive when I had my accident, and through all the other ups and downs that we have here all the time. Anyway, I just wanted to take a moment to share my appreciation of you. So thank you again. Everything's so much slower when you're filming. I'm only carrying one piece of bread at a time. I could have parked the cart a bit closer, I suppose, but then it would appear I am something of an idiot. So I've gone and got everything I need to finish the electric fencing, but I'm not going to get onto that tonight, because what I want to do now, I want to cover up my seedlings. I want to go in and have a coffee and a bath, and I want a nice early night. I was feeling, for a few weeks now, but particularly last week, I was really feeling tired in the mornings, struggling to get up. Just through workload, just through this time of year, there's so much to do. And I feel better already, having had a couple of nights of getting to bed a little bit earlier knowing that I've got this long weekend in front of me. And I don't want to undo that work by not taking the opportunity to have a nice early relaxed evening tonight as well. I'm just looking at the potatoes just to see if there's any movement above ground, and there's not. So there's nothing there I need to worry about covering up. So it's just the other seedlings that I will now sprinkle a bit of this hay on top of, just to give them that little bit of extra protection from tonight's frost. It's a double-edged sword. I'll definitely want to remove it because it's going to be a real haven for slugs if I leave it in place, but it'll work out really well this way because I'm moving something that ultimately was going to be moved this way anyway. It's on its way to the compost pile. It's still on its way to the compost pile. It's just making a couple of nights stop off first. I just want to show you something because I've got an idea that I'm going to try that I don't think I've heard of anyone else doing. We've spoken quite a lot recently about potatoes, about early varieties, main crop varieties, how they deal with frost, that the tops of the plants are very frost tender, but the actual potato plant itself will usually come back. Well, I don't know anyone who is growing main crop potatoes yet. And when I say growing, what I mean is anyone that planted main crop potatoes in their vegetable plot long enough ago that they've actually got them coming out the ground now, at least not in this zone. But what lots of us will be facing is this, which is volunteer potatoes. So this was my potato patch last year, and I've got, I think maybe there's 4 or 5 in this area, and there's another couple dotted around. Volunteer potatoes. And what I think I might do is transplant them. So I'm actually going to cover up the leaves on my volunteer potatoes this evening to protect them from the frost. And I think I'm going to transplant them, and I expect they're going to be ready before any of my other main crop potatoes will be. And as I'm talking to you, my brain is whirring because I'm wondering if leaving some volunteer potatoes deliberately might not be a good strategy for next year. It's how nature's designed them, isn't it? You know, they're not designed to be plucked out the ground. They're designed to stay there and propagate early. I think I'll transplant my volunteers this year, see how that goes, and then come up with a plan for next year. There's another one just here, look. Okay, so a word on protecting your plants this way. Obviously I've done it because it's the material I have to hand. I could just as easily have used these grass cuttings. They would work the same way. Now, I've been very, very light with my distribution because what I don't want to do is sort of flatten the plants and stunt them. But I'm able to do that because we are only expecting a light frost. It's not going to be a deep ground frost. It's going to get down to around 0. Even here, you know, it might get down to -1, but if it gets down to -1, we're only talking for an hour or two. And the plants I've got out are not the most frost tender. That's not to say that they're frost hardy, but they're not the most frost tender. And, you know, they're able to put up with a short, light freeze, which is what I'm expecting. But just because they're able to, just because they can survive, I've mentioned this before, there's a difference between a plant surviving and thriving, so that's why I've covered them up. Going to empty the rest of my cart into one of these compost bins. After that, I think I'm going to go inside. The sun's just starting to set behind me, and I'm not sure what time it is. Oh, it's 7:30 nearly. So yeah, no, I feel quite justified in being ready to go in and settle down. So with that, I'm going to sign off for today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow filming, and there's so much still to do. There's always so much to do. Never got around to sorting out that post in the pig run. We'll be doing that tomorrow for sure. But anyway, from me, from my family, from the goats, from the pigs, from the chickens, from my vegetables, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you on the next one. Cheers.